I'm going to teach you step by step how you can launch your video podcast this year. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. So step one is picking the gear that you need to run your show. And so the first place you should put any money into your podcast isn't actually the video, it's the audio. You want to invest into a microphone because people will bounce off of a video faster for poor audio than they will from poor video. So you want to make sure that your mic is sounding decent. The awesome thing here is that you don't need to spend a ton of money to get high quality audio, but it's very important to get this right. So if your budget is under $100, our go-to recommendation is the Samson Q2U. And if it's over $100, our favorite recommendation is the Shure MV7 Plus. We choose both these microphones because they both have an XLR output as well as a USB output. And since you're just getting into this, you really don't need to know the difference between those. But a USB you can plug directly into your computer to record content, and an XLR allows you to plug into a audio interface. So it's great to have both those options to give you a lot of flexibility as your setup changes or grows. The next step is figuring out how you're going to record video for your podcast. And honestly, our go-to recommendation if you're just starting out is to use what you already have. If you have a relatively new smartphone, it's going to have HD video that's going to be more than enough for you to create content for your podcast. So start there. If you do want to invest into a different microphone, our recommendations depend on your budget, but also your experience with creating video. If you're new to creating videos, I'd recommend going with a relatively nice webcam. This one's our favorite right here that we've also linked down below because they're going to be more straightforward and easy to use. There's less settings involved with them, so less that you need to know to make it look good. But if you do know cameras or you're willing to learn and you want the highest quality video possible, you're going to have to invest into a mirrorless camera or a DSLR, and we've linked our favorites down below. And everything that I'm going to mention throughout this video will be found in our free podcasting gear and software cheat sheet that is linked down below. So go check that out. It's a free website that we're constantly updating for the best things on the market, so you can find it all within one place. And an important point to consider when you're thinking about video options for your podcast is thinking about what do you want your setup to look like? How many shots do you want for your show? A lot of podcasts go with 3 different cameras for 3 different setups. So one directly at one guest, one at the other, and then wide angle. But there are so many different configurations that you could have for different looks for your show. So think about what you want it to look like and make sure you have enough cameras to bring that to life. Now we have our audio and our video sorted. The next thing you need to do is get a light. It's so important for video to have a solid light source. It really makes or breaks video, and it doesn't matter how great your camera is. If there's not solid lighting, it's not going to look great. And lighting options can range from $50 all the way up to thousands of dollars. So what we recommend doing is starting off with a cheap softbox or a panel light like I'm using right now that you can get under $100, and it's more than enough to get you started and make your video look so much better. Now that we have all the gear that we need, it's time to make this thing real and start creating accounts for our podcast. To run your podcast, you're going to need accounts on multiple different platforms, but luckily almost all of them are free. So we're going to set those up right now to secure the names that we want. So before you even make any account, you want to pick on the name for your show. If you're watching this, you probably have a name in mind, but if you're still brainstorming, I recommend using a tool like ChatGPT. Go in, explain what your show is about and who you're trying to reach, and ask for name suggestions. And then also go look on social media, see if there are already podcasts that exist with that exact same name. And ideally, you don't want your show to match what somebody else already has. So try to come up with something fresh and unique specific to you and your show. If your show's business related, my advice would be to make it very obvious. So make it clear as soon as someone reads the title of the video or the podcast, they know exactly what that show does and who they do it for. If your show's more entertainment focused, you can get a lot more creative, but I'd recommend using insider language from the community you're trying to reach. So chances are, if you're talking to a specific group of people that like a certain thing, there's probably words that they use within their community. And if you can use that kind of language within your name, it's going to go a long way in attracting them to you and also getting them to share your show with more similar like-minded people that are also fans of that subject. So if it's business, make it very clear. If it's entertainment, make it more community focused. And if you're stuck on naming your show and you need suggestions, comment down below and I'll try to help you for free. But once you've landed on a name, the next step you want to do is go create a Gmail account for your show. It's super important to have a dedicated email to keep everything organized for running your podcast. So go over to Gmail, it's completely free. Create a new email specifically for the show. Just name the email, your podcast, so whatever the name is that you landed on, at gmail.com. And if that exact name isn't available or it's already taken, just add pod to the end of it and it will usually be there. Once you've done that, then go over to YouTube and create your YouTube channel. Google actually owns YouTube. So once you've made this new Gmail for your podcast, all you have to do is go over to YouTube while you're signed in, and it's super easy to create your channel for your show. Then with this email, go over to all the different social media platforms you want to show up on. So Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok, if it's still around, anywhere else you want to show up online, it's a really good idea to go and secure your username on those platforms because this is completely free. And once it is taken, you have to get it from someone else. It's someone else's property. And many times I've seen that creators or shows that didn't secure their username in every platform, they get big on one platform and then other people secure the username and try to sell it to them. It's super shady, but it happens all the time. So at this point right now, we may as well secure all of our different usernames and handles, which brings us to step 3, which is getting show branding made for your podcast. Podcasting is becoming increasingly more of a visual platform, not just from the video, but also the graphics associated with your show in terms of your show art, your YouTube thumbnails, now your Spotify thumbnails. All of these things really matter because it's what makes people give you the chance to consume your content. If you don't capture their attention with the visuals, they're never going to come in and hear the content. So this stuff matters more than ever. And I can't stress enough how much of a difference it makes if you do it correctly. I run a YouTube agency and most of our clients are podcasters because these tiny differences make a massive difference in terms of performance because most of your competition won't get this stuff right. So if you do, you can capture up almost all of the attention within your niche. So if you're not a skilled designer, definitely work with someone who is. And ideally, you also want them to have experience when it comes to social media design. There's a massive difference between designing a website and designing a thumbnail that's going to perform on YouTube. There aren't a ton of good options out there to help you with this, but I do run a YouTube agency called Bunny Media, and we help a ton of podcasts. So if you want help with your branding and your thumbnails to increase your performance and make you look better online and get more clicks from it, that's what we do every single day. Go to bunnymedia.co and book a call to see if it makes sense to work together. But let's get your show branding made. And here's a list of everything that you need. Screenshot this right now. So you need your branding, which includes your colors, your fonts, and the vibes of your show. You need your podcast art, which is that 3,000 by 3,000 pixel square that you see for every podcast. So here's what Joe Rogan's looks like. Here's what Call Her Daddy's looks like. And you're gonna need to create one for yourself because this is what shows up whenever people search for you on the different podcasting platforms. So your art should really represent you and also capture the attention of the people that you're trying to attract. So don't be lazy with this. So many podcasters are lazy with all these things I'm talking about and they wonder why no one listens to their show. When there are shows doing all this stuff right, why would anyone give their attention to someone who isn't? These little things make a massive difference and podcasting can be so valuable for you and your business. It's the best place where you can invest time and money into because it creates such deep relationships that really translates into business. You should also get a logo made for your profile pictures on all different social media platforms. You should get a YouTube banner made and then YouTube thumbnail designs for long form episodes as well as clips if you're going to post those on YouTube as well. And here are the different options for getting this stuff made depending on your budget. If you have no budget whatsoever, you can use free graphic design software like Canva and make all of these things yourself. It's never been easier for someone with no graphic design experience to make something that looks decent. It's usually pretty noticeable if someone used Canva or if they worked with a professional designer outside of Canva, but it's a great place to start. And if you have no budget, that would be my recommendation. Go over to Canva, create all the things that you need and get started. But if you have a bit of budget to spend, I recommend working with designers. And the best place to find contract workers for short-term work is going to be Fiverr. If you go over to fiverr.com and look for podcast art, you're going to find designers that are doing this all the time. So go through, look at their ads and look for one that has the design style that you're looking for. And also if you come with a specific vision in mind, it's going to make the end product so much better. So do a little bit of research, see what you like, look at what your competition's doing and look for ways that you can stand out and really represent the brand that you're trying to build. And you can also find designers on Canva to do all the other parts of your branding package we talked about a little earlier. So that's the medium budget option. If you have a larger budget and you're willing to invest a little bit more, my recommendation would be 99 Designs. So on this platform, what you can do is you can go in and create a job. So you explain exactly what you're looking for and you attach a prize to it. So how much money you're willing to spend for the final product. Then a bunch of designers bid for this work. They create the work for you to review, and then the one that you pick gets the money. This is an awesome way to see a ton of different design perspectives based on what you're looking for at a fairly affordable price point. It's definitely going to be the most expensive one, but you get to see so many different angles at your vision to really pick what feels the most like you. So no budget, do it yourself in Canva. A bit of a budget, find designers over on Fiverr. Largest budget, go over to 99 Designs and create a contest for your work. And don't skip past the importance of titles and thumbnails when it comes to your podcast. With both YouTube and Spotify now taking the exact same approach of putting in front of people a thumbnail and a title and giving them the choice to click it, getting people to click now becomes the major driver of growth for all podcasts. So if you're not doing this right, you can't expect to grow. So many podcasts are so lazy with their titles or their thumbnails and they expect people to click. It just can't happen when you're competing against people that are doing it correctly. So either take the time to learn or work with someone who already knows this to fast track your success. And I'm biased, I'm going to say work with us, but even if you don't work with us, please work with someone or invest the time to learn this skill. Almost no one does this right when they start a podcast, and it's why 90% plus of podcasts fail and don't make it to episode 10. They're just not doing the things that can lead to success and they're wondering why they don't get there. Don't make that mistake. Be serious about your branding and be very specific and intentional with branding for thumbnail and video performance. That's why it can sometimes be a good idea to work with a general designer for your overall brand and then a different designer specifically for your thumbnails. And that's why within our agency, we have designers that are specialists in one or the other. We have designers that specialize in building an amazing brand, and then designers that come in to help you take that brand and turn it into a high-performing thumbnail for YouTube or Spotify. You really need both, so sometimes it makes sense to work with multiple designers to take advantage of their specific expertise. And I spent the time that I did talking about this because of how important it is. I know you're excited to start your show, but I need you to think about this. YouTube and Spotify are both for-profit businesses. They make their money by putting the right content in front of the right people. They can only do that based on the feedback they're receiving. So if they think one video is even slightly better because more people have clicked it, they're going to show it to all the potential people. So this is the gas that makes the car go. You could have the best podcast in the world. It could be a Lamborghini, but if you don't put gas in it, you're not going anywhere. Okay, rant over. Let's move on. Now that you have all your branding done, it's time to move on to step 4, which is getting a podcast host. Have you ever wondered how podcasts just show up on all the different platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher? Wherever you listen to a podcast, they are showing up there because they have a podcast host. The podcast host acts as the hub for any podcast, so the podcaster can upload content to one place, and then the host sends it to all the different directories for you automatically. So without a podcast host, you don't have a podcast. There's a ton of options for this, but one of our favorites is Transistor.fm. They're super easy to use. They have a ton of tools that allow you to grow your show and make more money from it. They also offer private podcasting and a ton of other awesome features built into it at a very affordable price point. We also love how they structure their plans. You can start as many podcasts as you want from one plan, and they're completely cool with that. Your prices will only ever go up with Transistor if you're getting more downloads from your shows. And at that point, you're making enough money to make it make sense. So we recommend Transistor because it's easy to use, has a ton of awesome features, and we love how they set up their pricing. Gives you a ton of flexibility and freedom to do what you want. And you can set your show up completely for free on Transistor by using the link down below. And we're friends with the team over at Transistor, so if you want a step-by-step tutorial of the entire platform, I just linked a walkthrough with the founder of Transistor walking through the entire tool. At this point, you have almost everything you need to create a podcast, which brings us to step 5, which is setting up all of your gear to finally record content. So everything you bought in step 1, we actually want to put that together and think about the backdrop, our recording environment. Where are you going to be filming this show and what's it going to look like? With podcasts becoming increasingly visual, where you film and the backdrop of your show matters a lot. You want to give some thought to this because it can really be a growth hack for you this year. Spotify is pushing video podcasts to users and they're seeing the video right away. So they're seeing your backdrop and you, and that's their first impression. So if it's interesting or it captures someone's attention, you're going to buy yourself some more time for them to actually enjoy the content. Plus, if they see and recognize your backdrop and your show from Spotify and they see it on the other social media platforms, if they had a good experience, they're way more likely to watch the content wherever they see it. One of the biggest growth hacks for podcasts this year is having creative formats and backdrops. I guarantee you, people are going to be filming in strange places like their car, their closet, the mall, anything to really capture someone's attention and be unique. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it should be thoughtful. Try to get creative with where you film to really stand out and make a solid first impression, capture their attention, and then build that relationship that only podcasting really can do when it comes to content. So set up your studio or your recording environment. It can literally be anywhere. And I mean that honestly. It could be your garage. It could be anywhere that you think looks cool or unique. Try that out and see how it looks. Start filming and see if you like it. You can always experiment with multiple different recording setups and placements before you land on your final one. So set up your equipment, start recording, and see if you like how it looks. And once you've done that, it brings us to step 6, which is finally recording the content for your show. If you're having a solo podcast, you obviously film whenever you have the time, but if you're having guests on, I recommend getting some sort of booking link to coordinate calendars and make sure that people show up to the calls that you book. I use a tool called TidyCal. It's $29 for lifetime use, and it works basically like all of the other calendar booking apps. So pick whichever one makes sense for you. Some of them might even be free, but it is very helpful to have that to coordinate schedules and get people to say yes quickly. And if you need help getting guests for your podcast, I made an entirely dedicated video for how to get guests, and I've linked that in the card above for you right now. But once you've gotten a guest to say yes and you've picked a date and time, our favorite place to record these online calls are either Riverside or Descript. I love these tools because they give you really high quality audio and video, and they also have editing features built in. So you can basically do everything that you need to get high quality content all from these platforms. They also have AI tools built in to make the content better, as well as the editing experience a lot more smooth. So you get a ton of values with each of these tools. I record most of my episodes on Riverside, but I also sometimes use Descript and I edit in both of them. So they're both awesome tools. I recommend trying the free trials of each and picking which one makes the most sense for you. And you can also use those tools to record solo episodes. I'm actually recording this video right now in Descript. So it's worth trying these out whether you're a solo podcaster or having on guests. And both capture amazingly high quality audio and video, which gives you the best quality content possible. So use either of these tools, Riverside or Descript, to film your episodes and then edit them down to their final form. And once they are good to go, you then want to upload these episodes to your podcast host and your YouTube channel. And on YouTube for your main podcast episodes, I recommend putting all of these videos into a playlist that you label as a podcast. It helps with YouTube indexing where to put that podcast to show it to people that do enjoy podcasts. And if you want a video teaching you how to do that, let me know and I'll make a quick tutorial for you. And step 7 was post the content. And once you've done that, you now officially have a podcast. And it's just repeating this process over and over from steps 6 and 7, recording, editing, and posting. And a podcast can genuinely change your life. Most people quit because they don't get the numbers they want. They don't get enough downloads, but don't let that be your reason for why you're starting a show. It's going to be way less likely you get those numbers. But if you love what you're doing and you love what you're talking about, you're going to figure it out. And we've made this channel completely to help podcasters just like you to grow their show. So I'm constantly making content teaching you how to grow a podcast, psychology behind thumbnails and YouTubes, and picking which content to create in the first place. There's a lot that goes into this, but if you get it right, it can be transformative for your life and your business. And that's what we do here at Podcast Podcast Nut is help people like you achieve those very things for yourself. So think about exactly why you're doing this. What is the dream destination for your podcast, and have that be your guiding star. So whenever you get discouraged, whenever you get frustrated, think about how great it could be and how great it will be once you get there. Because it is possible if you keep putting in the time and fighting through the resistance. And we provide content to you to try to make that as simple as possible. If this video is too overwhelming for you and you want someone to hold your hand and take you step by step to launching your show, go check out our new podcast launch course that helps you launch a top 10% podcast in the next 14 days. And since we just launched that course, we're giving a 50% discount for the first 50 people to take it, because we want you to help us make the best quality course possible. So if you invest into that, you know you're going to set your show up right from the very beginning and have support to do so. It's linked down below, as well as everything that I mentioned can be found within our podcasting gear and software cheat sheet that's also linked down below. And since you're now a podcaster, you are absolutely in the right place. At Podcast Nut, I create content every single week to help you grow and monetize your show. So definitely stick around, and congrats on starting your podcast. It's going to be an awesome year, and I can't wait to help you grow it.